All right. I'm not as ready to go here, so I've got all my fancy notes here. So good morning. I'll probably go over just a warning in advance. Um, I'm Jen Weaver. My family's been here at Harvest since 2015. I'm a Christian romance author with over a dozen titles published. And that has really nothing to do with what I'm about to talk about, except that I love to see the weird reactions on people's faces when I say Christian romance novels. Well, it has a little to do with my message. So when Jason gave us the theme of Seriously, Jesus, I'll be honest. I prayed and I pondered and I listened for 2 weeks and I heard absolutely nothing. I am a writer. Crafting a sermon should be pretty easy. Speaking in front of people, I should be able to handle that. But I almost sent Jason a message going, seriously, Jason, you couldn't give us more to go on? I'm kidding. When I stopped procrastinating, and I do procrastinate quite a bit, I'm a little bit the queen of the last minute, so I'll be honest. I was really grateful when the Lord finally stirred in my heart the topics of timing, obedience, and surrender. Have you ever had a time in your life when God called you to do something, and it was probably something outrageous, completely inconvenient, out of your comfort zone, and at the absolute worst possible time? I know it's happened to me a ton of times. So I'll give you one example from back when I was in high school. I was a total Jesus girl. I had the backpack with all of the Christian Bible verses and Jesus sayings and the funny t-shirts, and I was pretty bold. Obnoxious, actually, probably was more accurate. But being bold in my faith was pretty simple for me. However, I'm walking into the hallway after lunch just before the bell rings, and I see these two girls off on the side, and they're deep in conversation, and I distinctly heard the voice of God saying to go and witness to them. Now, I don't know if you remember what it was like to be a teenager, but being told to go and talk to strangers about Jesus, knowing you're going to look like a total freak, is about the most terrifying thing you can think of, even for someone who is as bold as I was. And I would love to say that I was obedient and that God did something amazing that day, but I chickened out. I definitely argued, seriously, Jesus? I don't know them. They're going to think I'm weird. The bell's going to ring in 2 minutes, and how much can I minister to people in 2 minutes? And instead, I just prayed for them from afar and went the other way. I've regretted that ever since. Because let's face it, the timing for doing the hard things is rarely convenient, and it's rarely comfortable. Ecclesiastes 8:4-6 says, "Since a king's word is supreme, who can say to him, 'What are you doing?' Whoever obeys his command will come to no harm, and the wise heart will know the proper time and procedure. For there is a proper time and procedure for every matter, though a man's misery weighs heavily upon him." Those last words, though a man's misery weighs heavily upon him, they really strike a chord. As a writer, there's something that we put into all of our books, and if you're a reader, you probably can catch on to this. It's what we call a black moment. It's the moment right at the height of the action where the character questions everything about who they are and where they're supposed to be going. And they have to decide, am I going to quit and believe the lie and the story ends with nothing? Or are they going to conquer? Are they going to face that reality and do something amazing? And as Christian fiction, that relies on the character finding help from the Lord. Well, my black moment came in 2007, 2008. My dad was diagnosed with atrial fibrillation shortly after he'd recommitted his life to Christ. His transformation was amazing. And he even had a moment that we confirmed was healing in his body before he went into a scheduled procedure. And despite his faith, he suffered a stroke in early 2008. And he's lived the last 13 years with aphasia, reduced mobility, and the hardest for all of us is significant personality change. We definitely asked the king, "What are you doing?" The stroke happened when I was 6.5 months pregnant with our youngest daughter. And for 1.5 years after she was born, I suffered severe postpartum depression, anxiety. It was a hot mess. And I withdrew from the world, completely unable to deal with my parents' struggles, my family's struggles, my girls' needs, the demands of being wife, mom, daughter, sister, friend, all of those things. I couldn't. Nothing helped, not even my amazingly supportive husband. The misery was indeed heavy. Well, Jesus spoke to me in a dream one night, and he told me, quit treading water. Just float. Trust me to carry you. Rest. Quit striving to be all of the things to all of the people. I have an independent streak that is at least a mile wide and gets me into trouble all the time. I'm not gonna lie, I definitely asked, seriously, Jesus? Rest? Not likely. I had family. I have friends. I have people in my life who need me to be strong. I can't. I mean, I avoided all those people too, because heaven forbid they see me not be perfect. Heaven forbid they see the messy girl. I had this perfect image of the Proverbs 31 wife that I needed to be. I had to be that awesome mom who had it all together and was doing all the things and cooking all those meals for those kids. And I was not that woman for a while. Yet, despite all of the demands on my time, my energy, my emotions, my tendency to do everything all by myself, I had to surrender. It was a command. I had to obey. I sought counseling. I spoke to my doctor. I got treatment. I started talking to people openly about what I'd been through. And you know, God used that testimony, and he uses it still to this day to help me uplift other mamas going through same things. And I praise him for that. And you know, Eric and I have faced other crazy storms and wild stories with testimonies that would blow your mind and fill up probably 10 of these 6-minute sermons about how God carried us through and how obedience and surrender and his perfect timing saved us despite the heaviness and the misery. Ecclesiastes 3 teaches us there is a time and a season for everything. He's made everything beautiful in its time. Isaiah 55:11 tells us his word will accomplish what he desires and will achieve the purpose for which he sent it. Why would Jesus call me to write romance novels? I don't know. Preach a 6-minute sermon? No clue. What I do know is that if I'm left to my own devices, nothing is ever going to happen. The timing will never be right. There will always be an obstacle. There will always be an excuse to keep me from doing the hard things that he calls me to do. He commands us to rise to his purposes, his way, in his timing, for a reason. As I read earlier, whoever obeys his command will come to no harm, and the wise heart will know the proper time and procedure. Because it's about Jesus, anyway, not us. And if I long to be wise, I must obey and surrender to his time and his procedures. And so do you. And even when his requests are outrageous, because right after we quit asking, seriously, Jesus? That's when he does something amazing and testimony worthy that brings him glory and turns that into a confident, seriously? Jesus. Thank you, guys.